everybody, how is it going? It's the Fuzz. Hey, we got a balance patch. Actually, there's going to be 2 balance patches, but it's being split up into... It's supposed to be 1, but they're splitting it up into 2. The first one, dealing with the campaign cards, and a little bit extra. And then the second one will be the one that buffs a lot of the evil aspect cards to compensate for the fact that the good aspect cards got a lot of good cards to work with. Though this does mean that the non-campaign good cards are kind of gonna not look so good. But anyways, let's just get right into it. Trigon of the Pact. They removed the speed. This was suggested almost immediately. It turns out a speed buff that's permanent on a creature is pretty insane, especially because it's a attack and health buff as well. For a card that doubled as a shrine, but also could give you like a dual color, to have such a strong effect, it was just way too good. You could just play it in basically anything. Now it's fair, you know, +1/+1, that's still a nice buff, like, but it's not like a great card. So, you know, later on, once you don't need it, Trigons become kind of eh. But that's completely fair. That's good to see that. Mr. Ulric, the new OP hero. So, they extended his cooldown to 4, which is fine, and then they removed the attack buff. So they decided to keep the ability to protect your creatures through the enemy turn. Now, without the attack buff, it's actually a pretty big deal, because with it, you could often just get such ridiculously good trades, because your 2/2s could now kill like 3/3s. So that's a significant nerf, but I still think the hero power is solid. It's just a matter of, do you want to run this versus, I don't know, Hermelian or something like that. But no, it's completely fair, and I'm glad they did this. Ulric was getting a little ridiculous, and it's good to see that it's not going to be so insane. Also, in Limited, he was like, well, actually not as insane as you'd think, but still really, really, really good. So in Limited, it's still a solid order hero, but it is now more requiring you to have like a tempo-oriented deck, so that you can get maximum value out of your hero power when you need it, because it is a 4-turn cooldown. So just like basic Neva, if you're gonna use it, you have to get maximum value from it. Cool. Holy Radiance. Okay. So the change with this one is, in order to play the second effect that does the 3 damage to everything, oh, actually just the enemies, you have to have 2 order aspects. So does that really change anything? I mean, 1-turn heal doesn't care. They're gonna have 2 aspects anyways. Well, okay, they care slightly, because that means they can't play this as quickly, like not on turn 3, for instance. But still gonna be really good. I mean, you can still have a double order and have another aspect because of Trigon. So I don't really think this is much of a nerf at all. It's only a very slight nerf. I think the main place where it's going to make a difference is in Limited, because it's going to be harder to actually use this card if you pick it up, because of course in Limited this card is pretty insane, but now you have to have double order to actually use it. That's a good start, but I still think it needs to deal 3 damage to everything. In Still Life now brings back non-spirit creatures. That's a very very interesting choice here by the devs. So what difference does it even make? Well, there are 2 spirits that now you can't bring back that were pretty significant. One was Mesmerizing Spirit, and bringing those back was a pain in the ass because it was just continue with discard. And the other one was, of course, Shifting Aurite. Now you can't bring back Shifting Aurite or Mesmerizing Spirit. I guess that's good, right? If you think about it, that's good. So I'm gonna call it a good change. Mr. Sentinel. Oh man, Mr. Sentinel got a pretty hard hit from the Nerf bat, probably deservedly. Well, definitely deservedly. So it's obviously 3 aspects now. So that's a lot. That's quite an investment. But if you think about it, you're getting, you know, a lot of board presence. You know, he could be a 4/4 and give something else a buff, and it protects your other stuff. Right now, he can't protect himself anymore. Though I assume if there are multiple Sentinels on the board, they will protect each other. But it does mean it's a lot harder to build this unkillable board. So that's a fair nerf. I wonder if this means that something like Master Archer can remain the way it is. Master Hunter, I mean, because the whole reach thing, I think, is a little bit insane. By the way, Master Hunter is not on this list, sadly. Void Touch Subordinate. The Parallel Snegvolution deck is no more. One turn eel? Say no to that. So, the change is, once you have the corruption aspect, it just gets +1 attack and deadly, so it becomes a really effective blocker. Like before, but it's not like, well, you can never attack into it, because, you know, you'll start milling. But of course, the main issue was with Parallel Evolution, you know, transforming your stuff into these. Now, what I don't understand is, if that's what they wanted to do, why did they change the effect? I guess they want to make it easier to kill. I think that's the idea. But the thing is, you can still play this and Parallel Evolution it to give your opponent these things. So that hasn't changed. The only change is that now that's the only way for you to get them. And if your opponent plays it ahead of time, you know, you can actually attack into it and not, like, lose your best creature. Well, you'll still lose it, but you're not going to get a garbage Void Touch. So, I don't know. The fact that you can give your opponent a creature that just mills him, that's just as lame, because a lot of the time you just won't be able to get rid of your own creature. I guess the main difference is that it's just easier to get through these things, right? But I'm still worried about these snake decks being what they are. Though, this is a spirit, which means in still life doesn't bring it back. That's good, right? We don't want to see more of these things. So now you'd have to play, like, Reanimate or something. I'm glad they at least addressed it, because it was getting really obnoxious. So we'll see if just how annoying it remains. Snakes on a plane. The memes never end with this one. Timea has 2 speed instead of 3. That's pretty fair. Getting a 2/3 with 3 speed and a Might Emblem and a possibility of card draw, I think Timea was shaping up to be quite good. So that's fine. Thaumic is now back to 3 mana. Apparently that was a coding error or something. It was never supposed to be at 2. So, okay, that's good, I guess. I'm always worried about this card because a lot of the buffs coming from the next patch are going to make a lot of spells a lot better at removing things. So, when you have Thaumic Reflector, there's always the possibility for abuse. Like, just an example, the one big card that's getting a buff is Sudden Death becoming a area of effect for corruption, basically. If you reflect it, you can clear almost any board for such low value. And that's always been the problem with Reflector, is that it just lets you generate such insane amounts of value, but just copying, like, Flash Freezes and Power Discharges. And now, thanks to Steel Nor Innkeeper, you could just recycle this crap forever, and it's pretty miserable. So I'm wondering whether Reflector just needs to be removed, because copying spells like that, even though it's expensive, yes, it's expensive, but when you have powerful board clears, copying them, being able to copy them every single turn, that's terrifying. I suppose this is why they made Bark Convoy, right? So it's not as insane, so that there's, like, more efficient answers to it. Okay, fine. I guess we'll let it be. Shooting Sprout. So it's now 2 aspect. This is probably one of the strangest nerfs, because up until the expansion, this card saw 0 play. And then with the introduction of Diogen and some of the other Valor-related cards, well, it got really good. So I'm surprised they went after this and not Diogen. I mean, I like Diogen. I think he's pretty cool. The Shooting Sprout, I don't know, okay, I guess. I guess because Valor exists, this card obviously got a lot better. The ability to distribute Might Emblems reliably makes Shooting Sprout, you know, obviously much better. Now, how much worse does it make it? I don't think it makes it that much worse. I mean, you just don't play it on turn 1 anymore. That's about it. I still think you can play that deck. It's just, it'll be a little bit longer before it comes out. But that's fine, I think. Fair enough. And then Dwarf Mortar is now rare instead of uncommon. This was only done for trials, and I can clearly understand why. A card like this, I mean, in limited in general, a card like this can just be like you think Disciple of Zash is annoying, right? I mean, this guy does 2 damage, and he's got 3 health. So it's way more difficult to remove than Disciple of Zash, and it does 2 damage, right? And 2 damage every other turn is better than 1 damage every turn. So yeah, like if you were drafting, you pick up a couple of these, it's just like your opponent can't do anything because you just line up your back row and then just bombard everything they play. So that's a good change. That's it for this one. The other nerfs, the other buffs are actually already on the forums. I'm still going to go over them, but I'm going to wait until they're actually officially released. So, good changes for the most part. I mean, yeah, those are all positive changes, even if they're not all what I was hoping for. Like, I think Holy Radiance and Void Touch could use more changes, but at least they are weaker than before. So that's positive. So this is actually all positive. So as always, devs doing a pretty good job balancing things, or trying to. And like I've always said, every single time they do a balance patch, the game is better off, I think. And I promise I'm going to stop complaining about Horizons. But I will not stop complaining about the 40 life gain, when I think that's just going to come to a head eventually when people are just getting annoyed by other players not trying to engage the core mechanics of the game. But that's a discussion for some other day. I hope you enjoyed. See you guys next time.